Let's do the Sun, Leo, and this very disturbing story about the Manchester bombing.
So security services could have prevented the Manchester Arena terror attack that left 22 dead and hundreds injured if they'd acted on intelligence and put the bomber under surveillance, according to a damning public inquiry that concluded today. So this blunder was one of 6 failings by security services. But there's one overarching failure, which is allowing people that hate us and want to kill us into the country. So the guy who did it, Salman Abedi, his whole family were refugees or asylum seekers, or certainly gaming the asylum system to get into the UK from Libya. In fact, they were rescued by the Royal Navy, by the British Royal Navy in the Mediterranean when they were coming from Libya. And then they came to the UK and joined, at the moment we've got over 43,000 people on terrorist watch lists. And apparently he wasn't one of them, so he slipped through the fingers. But it makes you think. I mean, the security services are always going to make mistakes, as they did here. They're always going to make mistakes because it's the public sector. I'm amazed they don't make more mistakes. And this, tragically led to such a loss of life. We've seen other plots get to near fruition, like the Liverpool mosque, Liverpool maternity hospital bomber, who sadly made it all the way and nearly killed the taxi driver, but happily just blew himself up instead of actually detonating it in the maternity hospital. But yeah, and it's not just security services who failed. Didsbury Mosque, where the bomber attended, played a part in his radicalisation. Obviously, his family, his father Ramadan Abedi, played a part in his radicalisation as well.
Yeah, and they also failed to report him to prevent on 2 occasions because he was listed as a de facto threat, but not a sort of serious subject of interest. He was a de facto subject of interest. So that's incredibly frustrating, to say the least.
And prevent wouldn't have done anything anyway because he hadn't read any Shakespeare. Well,
that's the thing. That's what's extra. This story is so heartbreaking. It's so infuriating, and I feel so bad for the parents. And on top of that, it's in this context where we've seen the Shawcross report. Obviously, this is separate, but we've seen from the Shawcross report that, as you say, Islamic terrorism is being underplayed, while Jacob Rees-Mogg is thought to be a gateway to extremism, or the works of William Shakespeare. And so it's extra infuriating when we see that the nonsense they were spending their time on, or similar organisations were spending their time on, and this kind of thing is ignored. It just makes me so angry. And there's this bizarre thing as well about they can't register the names. Have you seen? I've yet to understand that. The government has refused to allow them to register their loved ones' deaths, which is a key part of grieving. So I don't understand why that is. So anyway, Lewis, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with Leo almost entirely. I mean, you shouldn't let people who hate the country into the country. I don't think they should be too strict about it because they let me into the country. If I can make light about it. But there's no way, there's that saying, as they know, that
But you love this country now. We de-radicalised you.
Do you know what? I have to pretend that I like it. I have to pretend. But they should like it. And if they don't like it, they shouldn't be in the country. I mean, that's all that's asked of a country. And the other thing is that the terrorists have to be right once. Yeah. Okay, and the police have to be right, as you say. How many people on that list? 43,000 people on the list. They've got to keep an eye on 43,000. They let one. I think they're being a bit harsh on the police in this. I'm no big fan of the police.
Well, yeah, I think it's in our society and in our culture. I mean, one of the failings was security in the stadium allowed a man who was clearly, he had a backpack, who's clearly out of place at an Ariana Grande concert with a big backpack, looking like your stereotypical terrorist. They let him through because they were worried about looking racist if they stopped him. So this culture of fear, and that's why the grooming gangs were allowed to operate as well. Everybody was afraid of looking racist if they apprehended it and stopped it happening.
And we sort of joke about wokeness, and it's become this sort of silly word, but when it's actually affecting things like this, when people are worried about looking racist, or when Prevent are wasting their time on nonsense, that's when it's actually dangerous and infuriating. I mean, 1,000 text messages were ignored or missed, and there's those pictures of this kid with like a massive gun and stuff. He went over to Libya and just came back over, and that should have been caught. He was obviously being radicalised further.
And also, if he's claiming asylum from Libya, how can he return to Libya? I thought he was claiming asylum from there because it's so dangerous, and if he returns there, he'll be, terrible things will happen to him. So how can he go there on holiday?
It's based on on the tribal nature of the war. He left because of Gaddafi, but he came back. I'm assuming that he came back because his own little section was doing all right after Gaddafi was gone. I'm not an expert on that.
All right. Well, I think we've covered that story. It's a horrible story.